Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Feeling much better, thank you. Lili Nishmasimi Moirosi Rus Bas Mordechai. We have some gewaldige stuff today. When I saw this picture, I was very impressed. I printed it right away without reading it, but then I read it. It really got me. This is crazy, says John Shetrit. Look at my 14-year-old teenage son, Kanai Nahar, by himself on his own. He watched me pick up a Gemara Tainus and make a siyum. Our kids are watching us. He decided he wants this for himself. He's been pounding Maseches Megillah every day, 100% on his own inspiration. Here he is at 12:39 a.m. Motzei Shabbos, teenager on a Saturday night, steiging. This decision to do Daf Yomi doesn't just affect our own life. It's all our children's lives. Thank you, John Shetrit. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. 12:39 a.m. Instead of doing who knows what teenagers do at that time, here he is. Boy, we have a mazel tov. Very interesting things going on here. Reb Peretz Chaim Levin, his daughter got engaged yesterday, as we know, and we have pictures today. Abochar Chosan Avram Yeshua Grossman. I use this opportunity to try to recruit more members to MDY family. I heard he got close to 10 people at the Vart. You wonder why I'm using a family simcha to do this. People might wonder, sugar, set up, try to convert people to Torah at a Vart. I personally wouldn't do it. Firstly, as you always state, MDY is one big family, but not only that, let me explain to you how this Vart is related to my connection to MDY. I first started listening, watching a shiurim from the beginning of Maseches Sukkah. This was long after the attempt to try to get back on the Daf Yomi bandwagon after falling off due to COVID. I was captivated, After a while, I made up my mind to try to give back as an expression of Akaras HaTov to you. I decided to sponsor a shir on the day of my great-grandmother's yahrzeit, zechus neshoma. The date was October 31st, 25 of Cheshvan. I have 2 daughters in Shidduchim, and it has been very slow going. On the day of the sponsorship, I received a resume of a bocher who just said yes to go out with my younger daughter. I forward you the email so that you can verify the veracity of this statement. Is that how you say the word? That particular bocher became my daughter's chosen, the Vart, which we celebrated tonight. Interesting, they became engaged the month, sponsoring turning the Daf. I believe he sponsored turning the Daf. Interesting, they became engaged during that month. I believe that helping to support you is a big zechus. You're always saying, what is the blessing you could give me? More members to the MDY family. Thank you, it's true. That's why I volunteered at the Aguda convention and went around to local shuls to recruit more members. What better way to celebrate my daughter's Vard than to again try to recruit new members? Thank you, Peretz Chaim Levin. Recently I saw a video of Shas Yidin Bekitzer. By the way, the bells of Chassid in our kollel in the morning is in Shas Yidin in the afternoon. And he says he's very impressed by that, and he thinks it has something to do with MDY. I'm not going to go into his Torah over here, but Yishkoyach, Reb Peretz Chaim Levin. Here's one picture during the Vart, and you can see right over here the ad for MDY. And did you have your free Gemara? There's another picture. Show it to you in a second. Here, this is Reb Peretz Chaim Levin and Miriam Esther. Look at this, all geared out in the new MDY sweatshirt. I don't know how to get it, so don't email me. How do I get a sweatshirt? There's going to be a website soon with socks, sweatshirts, shot glasses to start off with. Caps maybe, I don't know. Okay, what else do we have here? Yosef Goldberger. From Yosef Goldberg, he says, Yochanan Chef from Houston. So this is in Texas, Rabbi Side, Texas Highway, you can see it in the background. Yochanan Chef from Houston watching the Daf while driving to Baton Rouge to check out a new property. I just added some arrows, so you chop what's going on here in this picture. First of all, background is Texas. Look at the amount of screens going on here. But then if you look right over here in the corner, the guy taking the picture didn't realize he himself has a Gemara open. For the YouTube guys. Yeah. Right over there. Here. Okay. So that's how they're traveling. Do we have time for one more? Oh, we have here Daniel Rubinoff. A good vach. Please see the attached picture of my next door neighbor, Brent Baer, learning the daf at the New York Rangers game last week. Brent just recently joined MDY. You could see the Zambrano, what is it called? The guy in the back over here doing the ice. So it was actually during a timeout, during the what is it called over there? Not halftime, whatever they call it in hockey. So he's using his time wisely. And finally, this is from Zezi, because we're talking about burying Sifrei Torah. So here's Zezi. This is Avigdor's brother. Avigdor Fold, we're all familiar from Zoom. So Zezi also does the daf. He has a long email here. I don't have time to read it now. His mother, his brother, his mother used to do the daf to make sure that his father does it. I thought it was amazing. And all the Einiklach are doing it now. And he said this is one of the most emotional times ever, burying 12 to 15 Sifrei Torah by Katrina. Okay, but if you notice, it's in a, like we learned yesterday, in a Kli Cheres. And whatever they do over there. Okay, maybe we'll get a different time. We'll be able to go back. Parnas HaChodesh for the Koilel is Chaim, Lili Nishmas Yeshua. I have to figure out when it's over. Maybe Chaim could tell me. I didn't have time to go back. I think it's already 2 months. We have to go on to the next sponsor. We have 2 sponsors waiting in line. Lili Nishmas Yeshua, Aryeh Lei Bakoyim Ben Yodes and Chaim. Refuah Yididenu Reb Shalom Baruch Yudah Ben Malka Freda. That's Yidi, and that is sponsored by Fischl. Maseches Megillah, the Davis and Kessler family in zechus for shleima from Miriam Esther bas Devora. Maseches Megillah, Shmuly Hecht, F245. Mordechai Shleima Tobia. When I feel that cough about to happen, I got to drink something hot. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Oh, yeah, I shouldn't have said anything. Ben Avrumie Moshe Peretz near Yar. Mordechai Piנחas Tobia Zechron Ben Avrumie Moshe Peretz. Avrumie and Shprincy Gross, in memory of the Yosef of our father, Shlomo Zalman Ben Yitzchok Isaac Zichron Levracha. By Beni Rudnick. Everybody knows Beni's meet here in Bet Shemesh. He's a new member of the shir. He just started this Masechta and he's loving it. He sent me a picture of him and his baby, but he wasn't learning, so I didn't print it. In memory of the Yartzeit, he doesn't know the rules. You have to learn. You have to have a safer open. Kilo, you're learning. In memory of the Yartzeit of our father. No, sorry. Beni Rudnick, listen to this, Rabbi Isai, Beni Rudnick. In honor of the birth of our daughter yesterday morning, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. And he wrote to me, this is the only thing that I'll miss the daf for. Chaim Weingarten, in appreciation of the shir. Thank you, Reb Chaim. Today is Daf Chof Tes, and we are holding the last 2 words on Daf Chof Ches Amud Beis. Honor of Reb Eli. Mevadem Talmud Torah, lo yitzoas hameis, ulachnosas hakala. You mevatel Torah to go to Levaya. We learned that Gadol Talmud Torah more than Meis, only a Meis mitzvah. So the Aguda really says here, and I'm not saying this is the simple pshat, but he says maybe to answer that question that Talmud Torah is the greatest. He says that we're concerned that people won't show up and deal with the Meis. So you have a chiyuv to go, you go. But if there's a solid Chaver Kadisha in place, then you don't have a chiyuv. Let's see if it fits into the Gemara well. To walk the kala, to walk her to the chuppah, and for a levaya. Amud Aleph Reb Yehuda Reb Eli. Now, Reb Yehuda Reb Eli is the famous, the classic Reb Yehuda. So anytime the Mishnah says Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda, it's Reb Yehuda Bar Eli. He would do that. He would go, even though it's Teirasum Nasai, that was his profession, learning. And when your profession is learning, you don't even have to daven, you don't do anything, you just learn. But he would go out for these 2 things. When there's not enough people at the funeral. By the way, we have a lot of words to read today, so we have to really move. So don't look around too much, put your finger in place and we're going to move. What does it mean there's enough people at the Levaya? If 12,000 people showed up, you don't have to come. More than that. 6,000 on the trumpets, 12,000 human. The kids are 18,000 people. It's not a simple Levaya. So it's not easy to get out of a funeral like that. Maybe it's 12,000, 6 out of the 12. So it's either 12 or 18. Explains Rashi, Mibula means from the city limit, from the gate of the city, at Zichra till the grave. So you have enough people to go from the city to the cemetery. Rav Sheshes Omar, Kinisinasa kach netilasa. When a Talmid Chacham is nifter, it's like Matan Torah. How many people were at Matan Torah? Adults from 20 to 60, we have 600,000. So when the Torah leaves the body, the Torah leaves this world, so to speak, when the Talmid Chacham is nifter, you need 600,000 people at the Levaya. In other words, the only Levaya was at that size was Maran, Rabbi Avadia Yosef. They say there was 1 million people at the Levaya. So what are you going to say? So you don't have to go to Rabbi Avadia Yosef's Levaya because there's 600,000 people plus? No, that's not what's happening. Is just like when the Torah was given to 600,000 people, Shishim Riboy, 600,000 people. Says the Gemara, that's great. Somebody that learns Mishnah, learns Torah. Hold on. Emergency here. That's what happens when you learn at home. My wife's going to Tel Aviv to get some passports at this early hour of the day. Baruch Hashem, it's a chesed to get an appointment for a passport place. Takes months. Today's the day. And I had to be there. I would have to go, and there's no such thing as being mevatel shir. So you get a notary. I'm just telling you this, Rabbi say, even though we have a lot. You get a notary in Eretz Yisrael. It's not the $5 notary that every guy in the world stamps and it costs $1 in America to get. Over here it costs 200 shekel. What is that? Like $70 to get a notary because they put wax and they put a thing and a ribbon. It's unbelievable. Anyway, so I don't have to go, Baruch Hashem. Says the Gemara, but somebody who teaches Torah, Rabbi Avadia Yosef, you can't say the 600,000 people, I'm not going to the Levaya. There's no limit. You have to go to Talmid Chacham's Levaya. Tanya. Reb Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Boi Rei, Kama Chavim Yisrael Fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shebechol Makom Shegolu Shechina Yomayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Klal Yisrael. Wherever they go, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. Uri Zohar, the famous Israeli actor, the #1 actor in Eretz Yisrael, he told me himself he had the most beautiful home in Eretz Yisrael on the water. And why am I saying this? Because I was in his house, I schmoozed with him, and I think if anybody comes to Eretz Yisrael, the first stop before you go to the Kaisel, go to Uri Zohar. Why? He was the most successful person in Eretz Yisrael, the greatest actor in his time, very wealthy, lived in a gorgeous mansion on the beach, and today he lives in Yerushalayim. He bought a home, an apartment. He gave the apartment to his kid, and he lives in the storage of his home. In other words, in a 10 by 10 or something crazy. From going from up here to there to be Oved Hashem. It's a lesson in Shalom Aleichem. All right, my wife is not here, so we're going to hear the Einikel, the 4-legged Einikel now. Says the Gemara. So Uri Zohar, he's just becoming a Baal Tshuva, and he's riding his motorcycle with his friend, and he notices a cop behind him. And the cop is following, and so they make sure there's no infractions. They go the speed limit. Finally, the cop pulls him over after 20 minutes. And the cop says, I've never had this. Usually when I follow somebody, I'm able to find something. You switch a lane, you do this, you do that. I don't understand. I can't catch you on anything. So Uri Zohar says, he just became a Baal Tshuva. He says, Hashem imanu. Hashem is with us. So the cop says, so there's 3 people on the motorcycle? That's a ticket. So, Zog the Gemara. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us everywhere we are. Everywhere we go. Like Uri Zohar said. Golu Mitzrayim, Shechina Yomayim. They went to Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu went with them. Shenemar. Hanig loy nigleisi leveso vicho biyosim in Mitzrayim. Golu leBavel, they went to Bavel, Shechina Yomayim, Shenemar. Lemanchem shulach, it says in the pasuk shilachti, we have to read it with a shuruk, or shulachti, bavela. I, myself, went to Bavel. And in the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be with us. It doesn't say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to return us. Vishav, Hashem is going to return. Ela v'shav milam shakadosh baruch hu shav imayim min bein haguluyos. Says Gemara bebavel heicha. Where does Hashem show Himself more? Because Meloi Chalaretz Kvaida, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in every place, everywhere. This table is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. But where is He more? Where can you see Him more? Like in the Mikdash, you see HaKadosh Baruch Hu more. He's present, whatever that means. He's in the shul in Hutzel. And Ubeveknishta the Shaf v'Yosiv ben Arda. Shaf means it was destroyed, v'Yosiv, and it was rebuilt in Arda. So Rashi says Yechanya brought stones and dirt from Eretz Yisrael. I once was saying, and somebody argued with me, and then he agreed with me, that the dirt itself, dirt of Eretz Yisrael, doesn't have any kedusha. But it seems over here from this Gemara that there was something to it. He brought the stones, maybe from a shul, something. He brought stones and dirt to Bavel, knowing that they're going into Galus. They brought the stones and they built a shul over there. And that shul had special presence of the Shechina. Don't say that the Shechina is in both places at the same time, in Hutzel and in Shav v'Yatziv. Whatever that means. Again, we don't understand these things. I don't pretend to understand it. I'm just reading it. There's a simple meaning and there's a much deeper meaning. Omar Abaye Teiseli. I should get schar, says Abaye. I'm very far away from that shul. I go out of my way to dive in that special shul that has special kedusha. Says the Gemara Avu de Shmuel, Shmuel's father, Levi and Levi, have a Yasef v'Knishta the Shaf v'Yosef ben Arda. They were in the shul. Asked the Shechina. The Shechina showed up. Shamu called Riksha. How did they know the Shechina showed up? They heard a commotion going on. They heard something going on in the shul. Kamu v'nafku. They jumped up and ran out of there. Says the Gemara, Rav Sheshes have a Yosef. Now we know Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshes throughout Shas, they were both blind. We went through it. They asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make them blind after the Rebbe was nifter. So Rav Sheshes, and it's important, Rashi points it out right away. Rav Sheshes was blind. It has to do with the story. He's Havi Yosef, he's in the shul. Bebek Nishta, the Shav v'Yosef, ben Arda. He's in Arda in the Shav v'Yosef shul. The one that was built by Yechanya with the stones from Eretz Yisrael. As Shechina of Eloi Nafan. He didn't run away. So, come HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Misharsim, the Malachei Shars, they try scaring him. So he says to Rebbeinu Shalom, Olov, v'sheinoi Olov, mi nidchem mipnei mi. I'm a downtrodden person. I'm blind. So who should go? Should I go? Or should your malachim go? Omar lohu shifku. Hashem listened to his taina. He says, let him be here with me. Says the Gemara of Eli Lamigdash Mat, I will be for them for a small Beis Hamikdash. What does that mean? The shuls in the Bati Medrash in Chutz La'aretz are going to be a Mikdash Mat. We talk about this all the time. You have to treat the shul, the Beis Medrash, with respect, because it's a minor Beis Hamikdash. Rebbe Lezer Omar Ze Beis Rabbeinu shebeBavel. Rabbeinu is Rav. The Gol Hadar in Bavel and Chutz La'aretz was Rav. It's referring to his home. Hashem, you're going to be a home for us. So Rava brings down to the pshat that Ma'ayin means Hashem's house. To start out my life, I used to learn at home. For davening, I would go to shul. Now that I understand, I paid attention to the pshat in Tehillim. Of course, Abaye knew Tehillim better than anyone we know, so he knew this pasuk. However, he understood pshat now, based maybe on Rava. Hashem ohafti me'oin beisecha. Now I know me'oin means the shul. Have a garisna b'beik nishta. So the shul has big dusha. I'm gonna learn in the shul. So eventually, Lost Lavoi. There's going to be a guy, he's going to be in shul, and his wife is going to try to contact him on WhatsApp or whatever, and he's not going to pay attention. She's going to get upset. And finally, he's going to, when he gets his line back up, he's going to say, I'm in Eretz Yisrael. I was in shul, and the whole thing got picked up. It was brought to Eretz Yisrael. I'll see you on the next flight. She's going to chap in halal or whatever, come with Mashiach. But the whole shul is going to pick itself up, according to one pshat. Some say it's the kedusha of the shul. Okay. She covered by Yisrael shenemar ki kesavar baharim ukekarmel bayom yavai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, just like the mountain Tavar and Carmel, they were able to move and go to Sinai. Today they're in Eretz Yisrael. You see that mountains are able to move. So I'm going to pick up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that the Nebuchadnezzar is going to destroy Mitzrayim. It's not a problem, especially today when we understand it. You have planes, you have bombers. You could go from here to there, no problem. Hashem is saying in Mashal. You see that I was able to pick up these mountains and bring them to Sinai. Says the Gemara of Eli Dvarim Kavachim. Umat Tovar v'Karmel shlei bo elu fishal l'ilmud Torah. These two mountains showed up for a few hours to learn Torah at Har Sinai. Big bar in Eretz Yisrael. Yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu replaces them in Eretz Yisrael. Bate knisiyos ubate midrashos. When you have a shul that's full of Torah and a base medrash, shekayrim u'marbitzim em Torah, ayin aleph chav vav al achas kamo v'kamo. So certainly, a shul. If a mountain that was at Har Sinai, the Sam Sofer asked a question, but we know that. I think somebody was just asking, based on the Taisus, maybe I just flipped through the screen. Maybe he's asking this because I was also wondering about it. Because yesterday Taisvus says that only the shuls in Eretz Yisrael, you can't make a t'nai in a shul in Eretz Yisrael because it stays there. But the shuls in Chutz La'aretz, you could make a t'nai, right? Maybe that's what the person was asking. Just saw it on the Zoom screen for a second. 134 people on Zoom. Shalom Aleichem, all Zoomers. So, I don't know who Dante is, but Shalom Aleichem Dante. How you doing? Excuse me. So, yesterday I wasn't feeling as good as I'm feeling today. I was much worse yesterday, much worse, Moshe Shabbos, sweating away. But I wasn't coughing. Maybe because the heat was on. Now it's only 75 degrees in here. That's the problem. Okay. No, but the question is, Taisa says that the shul doesn't go from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. That's why you can make it t'nai and make it do whatever you want. So maybe the pshat is, it's those shuls that are then. Not every shul goes to Eretz Yisrael. A shul that's operating right now gets up, but a shul from 500 years ago maybe doesn't. Maybe. The Sam Sofer asks, and I think it's important to us, this question and answer. We said that a base medrash where you learn Torah has a lot of kedusha, and therefore it makes sense a base medrash gets picked up and brought to Eretz Yisrael. But a shul has less kedusha. So what's the kavachayim here? That if they learn Torah, the mountain that learned Torah, so certainly a shul, but a shul and Torah are two different things. We said Torah is up here, tefillah is down here, let's say, la halacha. What's more important? The base medrash is more important than a shul. So then what's the Gemara bring a raya from the mountain that heard Torah at Har Sinai to a shul that you daven in Bavel? They're not connected. Says the Chaim Sofer, beautiful. It has to do with us. That the shul you daven in every day. And that should be a lot more chamor than a place that learned Torah for just a few hours. Torah all day, shul all day, Torah wins. But a mountain that only heard Torah for a few hours is not as strong as a shul you daven in every day. And that's the Daf Yomi, Rabbi Isai. The learning Torah every day. We have that kavachayim. So a person that learns Torah every day certainly should be a lot more important than a mountain that's made out of stone that only learned for a few hours. That's my own kavachayim. I hope it's a good one. Dorsh Bakapara. Why are these mountains like dancing up high? Yotza Baskal Varmalahem Lama Tirtzudin Im Sinai. Teratsdun is two words. Tirtzudin. Why are you fighting with Sinai? Kulchem Balimum Matem Eitzel Sinai. You're nothing compared to Sinai. You have blemishes. Ksivacha Gavnunim Uksivhasam Oygibin Oydak by a Kayan. If he has a cataract in his eye or long eyelashes, that's a mum. So the word Giben is a mum. So Mela, all those mountains have blemishes. What is the blemish? Somebody who is haughty and acts begaiva, that's a balmum. So I saw the Rosh Yosef. He lived like 400 years ago, I think. I think also that he was the Rebbe of Shapsei Tzvi. Not that it's a Milo, but just in perspective, when he lived. I saw his pshat, I started laughing. He was serious. I just thought the way he said it was funny. That everybody has to realize that who are we? We're nothing. We're going to be buried and we're going to be, the worms are going to eat our body. We're offer verima, we're nothing. Nothing should be nothing. So a person that has gaiva, he says, Ein loy moyach b'kot kadai, doesn't have a brain. How can you have gaiva? Oh, if you don't have a brain, that's a terrible mum. That's what he says. Brainless human being is a big mum. It's a lot worse than not having a hand. Anyways, I thought it was funny. You can't make a shul into a shortcut. My compandria, marova, compandria, gishma, shortcut. My gishma, what does it mean? Kimando Omar. So it's also based on two words. Adimakifna adori. A kapandria. Adimakifna means to circle until I'll circle around. Go the long way. Let me go adori in order to get to the houses, to the rows of houses. Elba. Let me go right through a shul. It's amazing. I just thought about it. The shul that we daven in, the way, Eretz Yisrael, there's mountains and everything, so the Bnei Yeshivas, the smaller shul, there's a door in the front, and a lot of the neighbors, they open up the door in the front, right in the middle of davening, they walk right through our shul in order to go lower down. I mean, it's mamish kapandria. It's usher. So I'm sure most of them like sit down and say Ashrei, but it's, when you live in Eretz Yisrael, you could see this a lot more. That somebody would use a shul as a shortcut. Imagine if there was maybe that's what they're tining, all these people. They used to walk from up here down here. Somebody built this building right there. Maybe that's what happened. They have no right to build a building in the middle of my pathway. You want to build a building? I'm going to use your shul as a pathway. I'm continuing to walk. What about the women? I don't know. Mutter. You walk in because you wanted to chap a mincha, and then you realize there's no mincha. Now you can make it into a shortcut. Now you can walk out the other door. If you go into shul to daven, you're allowed to make it into compandria. The Vilna Gaon on the side over here, he's goyres instead of mutter mitzvah. It's a chiyuv. Why? Because of this coming line. Shenemar ubevoy. When you go to the Beis Hamikdash, you go to the Beis Hamikdash to show your appreciation of Beis Hamikdash. You walk right through and through. You go from the north, you exit the south. Says the Vilna Gaon, then it's not mutter. Then it's a good thing to go in one door and walk out the other door because you're mimicking what we do in the Beis Hamikdash. He bases it on the Rishonim. Sorry. You're not supposed to cut the grass so that you feel bad that the shul is destroyed. It says you shouldn't cut the grass and feed it to your animal. But it seems like you could cut the grass and just leave it. It says yeah, that's what the Mishnah meant. I was also saying that it's usher to cut the grass and feed it to your animal, but you're allowed to cut the grass. I don't know how that fits with Yitzchak Zilberstein. They're not allowed to cut the weeds that grow out of the kotel. From here, it seems like you could. You just can't feed it to your animal. So you have to treat a cemetery with dignity. You can't just make a party in the cemetery. You can't bring your animals to graze there. And don't bring your piping through the Beis HaKvaros. And you shouldn't cut the grass. Over here, you don't just leave it. Over here, you have to burn it. Because of the honor we have to give the dead. So what is Mibnei Kvoda Mesim? Ahaya. Just in case you're not looking inside, I made a chart. It says over here, you have to treat it with dignity. A few halachas. you don't let an animal graze, and if you do, you have to burn the grass. And then it says in the bottom, so is Kved HaMesim going on this last line? That you have to burn the grass because of the honor of the dead? What does one thing have to do with the other? And the Gemara is going to say no. The red goes with the red. It starts, you cannot treat a cemetery Beis HaKfaras without dignity. Why? You jump all the way. It gives you the halachas, what you shouldn't do. And the reason, which is connected to the beginning, is mipnei kvoid meisim. You don't treat it without dignity because of the honor that we give the dead. Who cares if you burn grass? You think the dead people care if you burn it or you don't burn it? Eli Reisha says the Heilige Mishnah sponsored, the official Mishnah sponsored the zechus Ruchni for Shimshon David Lipa brothers Yosef Yehuda Yeshua Michal Bnei Yehuda's Bela. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechali is b'Shabbos Korim b'Parshas Shkolim. Boisai. Here are the 4 parashiyos that we read in the month of Adar. Shkolim is corresponding to the Machzah Shekel that we're supposed to give. We remind everybody in the beginning of the month, Rosh Chodesh Adar, that in 1 month from now, in 30 days, that's when we're going to start taking the new money to buy the korbanos for the Beis HaMikdash. Where are we going to get the tamid from? From the money that people give, half a shekel. But we have to remind people. A month earlier, you start reminding. Zachar, Mechias Amalek. That has everything to do with Purim. Purim is Haman, Amalek. So we read it right before Purim. Para is the Ephra Para. We burn a Para Aduma. And we take the ashes and we make a person tar with it. We have to get ready for Pesach. Pesach is coming up. We all want to be tar so we can bring a carbon Pesach. And finally, Parshas Chodesh, which has everything to do with Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It's the month, the Rosh Chodesh. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechali is b'Shabbos, Korim b'Parshas Shkolim. So if Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, so that Shabbos, you read the first of the 4 parashiyos, Parshas Shkolim. Chaliyos b'toich HaShabbos, Magdimim l'Shovar. So, if Rosh Chodesh is before, like over here, in this calendar right over here, here's Rosh Chodesh, so Parshas Shkolim in blue comes before that Shabbos. It's up here. Then, when do you read the next Parsha line? Parshas Zachar. You read it not immediately the first Shabbos. You skip one, X. You go to the next Shabbos. Why? Because it needs to be right before Purim. Here's Purim. And here's Zachar. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 days before Purim. Everything's beautiful. Chali is b'Shabbos Magdim M'Shavar. Umafsikin l'Shabbos Zachar. So you stop one Shabbos. Bashniya Zachar. Here you read Parshas Zachar. Bashlish is Para. Aduma. Baravi is Chodesh. Parshas. By the way, Chodesh Hazel Lochem is what we just read this Shabbos. So what is that? 2 days ago. We're still Parshas Shavuot. It's not Tuesday yet. Bachamish is Chozrim L'Kesidron. We're actually going to discuss it Beis Hashem today if we get there. That the 5th week we go back. Go back to what? So this is machlokes in the Gemara what it means. Go back to regular reading. Go back to the Haftarahs. Lakol mafsikim b'rosh chodashim. Now, lakol mafsikim. When something comes up, we know this already because we go to shul. We start laning whatever has to do with that day. If it's a Monday, Thursday, we lane Rosh Chodesh instead of Monday, Thursday. If it's a Shabbos, we add Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Chodashim, Chanukah, Purim, Taniyos, Mamados, Yom Kippurim, Big Chiddush Yom Kippur. That Mincha Yom Kippur, we also read the laning of Yom Kippur. Whereas, let's say Pesach Shabbos Chol Hamoed, on Mincha Shabbos you read the Parshas Shavua. Says the Gemara, Tnan Osam, in Maseches Shkolim, my favorite, Bechol Ba'ador Mashmiim Ala Shkolim. You start telling Daf Amud Beis, Bala Klein. 2 things. You have to tell people, be careful from planting vegetables, different types of vegetables, or seeds together with wheat, together with grapes. Klein. That's when it starts growing, you have to get rid of it. We just turned to Chavtes Amud Beis, sponsored by Moshe Horn and Woody Wyman as a zechus for Mordy Moskovitz. and in honor of Reb Eli for all that he does. I think that's Chaim Peretz Levin. Yeah. Anonymous Chaim Peretz Levin. So, no, we mentioned sponsoring, and his daughter got engaged in that month of the sponsorship. So, Baruch Hashem. Says the Gemara. Bishlam ala klayim, everything makes sense. Zman zriyoi. That's when it starts coming out. You gotta make sure you don't benefit from it. Ela ala shkolim and all. Where does it say anything about the machzah shekel? Says the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Tavi. So this is a Rabbi Tavi. We're going to go back to a number of times today. What does Rabbi Tavi say? Omar Rabbi Yosha. Do Omar Kra. In the parsha of Tamid, we're supposed to say it every day. If nobody says, if you don't say karbanos, at least you say the parsha of Tamid. That's the most important one out of all of them. Now, what do we say? Zois oilas chodesh b'chodshay. Amar Torah chadesh v'alvei karba min truma chadasha. The Torah is telling us you have to bring from the new money. You have a lot of money in the Beis Hamikdash. You don't take from that money. New money every year. We take from the new money on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. There's Gzer Shava, V'chiv Nisan, Bo Yekruva Mitrum Chadasha, Kadmina B'Karina Bechel Ba'adar. So we need because this happens 30 days later. We have to read the Parsha Shkolm over here, so that when it comes down over here to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we're ready. We have the money in place. So again, what does Rav Tavi say? From this parsha of Tamid, I learn shkalim. He's able to connect it. It doesn't go according to Reb Shimon Gamliel. The Reb Shimon Gamliel the famous concept. When do we start talking about Pesach? Everybody knows. So Shimon Gamliel says 2 weeks before. So if when it comes to talking about Pesach, he holds only 2 weeks, so talking about Shkalim should also be only 2 weeks. Why 30 days before? 30 days before, that's Tanakama. Reb Shimon Gamliel says Gemara, no, I feel it. Reb Shimon Gamliel, even though Mamar b'chamisha asa boy shulchonis yoshim b'medina, the money changers pull out their table. They start changing money for people to bring the machzah shekel. When? On the 15th, Purim in Yerushalayim. So you have to start 2 weeks before that. He's l'shitasa. Everything's 2 weeks before, but not 2 weeks before you take the money. 2 weeks before the changers already get into position. You have to tell people, hey, in 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a money changer in Yerushalayim. Start getting your money ready. And on the 25th of Adar, they already moved their tables to the Mikdash. And that's why we have to do it 2 weeks before that. My Parsha Shkolim. Rav Omar Tzavis B'nei Yisrael V'Matalim Skor B'nei Lachmi. Parshas HaTamid. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Is that what we read by Parsha Shkolim? U'Shmuel Omar Kisisa. That rings a bell. That's what we do today. That's the halacha, like Shmuel, right? We just discussed the other day. The Rav was much greater than Shmuel, and Rav gave all the honor to Shmuel because he cursed him and didn't have sons. But here we know that the halacha is like Shmuel in these things. Shmuel Omar Kisisa b'Shleima l'man Omar Kisisa Hainu Dekar Lo Parsha Shkolim. Now Shmuel makes a lot of sense because in Parshas Kisisa it talks about the machzah shekel, the simba shkol. Elo man domas korbani lachmi hachamid shkolm ksivi yasam. So the Gemara is going to ask 4 or 5 questions on Rav. Here's one of them. Where's the mention of shkolim in Parshas Tamid? It talks about bringing a carbon every day to the Beis Hamikdash. It doesn't mention a word about a half a shekel. In time and Mike, the Rebbe Tavi. So let's go back to 2 lines from the top of the Amud. Omer Rebbe Tavi. Rebbe Tavi says, I see the idea of shkolim in the parsha of Tamid. How? Through Gzeres Shabbos and everything, but that's it. So yeah, it has everything to do with it. Okay, another question. Bishlam Elamadam Tzavis B'nei Yisrael Mishum Dechsivi Korbanos Hasam. Bishlam Elamadam Tzavis B'nei Yisrael Mishum Dechsivi Korbanos Hasam. Rebbe Tavi. Elo Elamadam Kisisa Korbanos Miksiva. Shkol Nadanim Ksivi. So it goes like this. The parsha of Kisisa is a question. This is the Mishkan. instead of Beis Hamikdash, we had this in the Midbar. Now you see this box over here? Look what it looks like close up from the new art scroll. Here's the inside picture. This is what it looks inside. This is the outside of the box. You see this nice fabric on top. This is wood covered with gold. What's on the bottom? Adonim. Let me show you a beautiful close-up picture. Here's the wood, goes right into the silver. This is super expensive, you can imagine. So they had to make a special collection for the silver. Now, ask the Gemara, the pasuk is talking about the silver for Adonim, to hold the Mishkan together. What's the connection to a half a shekel that we collect for a carbon tamid of every day? It's two different things. There's collecting money for the silver, it's collecting money for carbon. Now it's a good question on Shmuel. Says the Gemara in answer. Here's the answer real quickly. There's 3 times it's mentioned the same parsha here. Perek Tetzava, Perek Lamed. Pasuk Yud Gimel says Truma. Pasuk Yud Dalet says Truma, and Pasuk Savav says Trumas. There's 3 collections. You're right. 3 different collections. Shal Shum Mizbeach, Shum Mizbeach, whatever we need for Mizbeach. V'shal Adonim LaAdonim. Here, Mizbeach. The Mizbeach gets its korbanos. That's one of the Machzah Shekel. V'shal Adonim LaAdonim, and the silver for the silver. So Bedek Habayis is the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash is Bedek Habayis. And Rashi points out, Bedek Habayis doesn't have a Machzah Shekel. Bedek Habayis, however much you want to donate, as your heart desires. So another question. Oy vey. So we read Parshas HaChodesh. Parshas HaChodesh, where was it? Over here somewhere. What's so special about this week right over here? If Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, so Bishlam Elamadu Kisisa, Hainu Deshani, Harish Chodesh Misharish. Sorry, over here. Elomadam Tavis Korbani Maishani. If you're reading the parsha that you read on Rosh Chodesh, then there's no difference. It's the same thing. Says Gemara, no, Shani, Di Rosh Chodeshim Karushita Ben Yana Diyama Bechad the Rosh Chodesh. That's what we do today, right? When you have a Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos, so we read the parashas of Shavua, 6 aliyahs, and at the end we talk about Rosh Chodesh. But when Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on Shabbos, right over here, I don't have a good calendar for that, so I didn't print it. But let's pretend that this is right over here is Rosh Chodesh, where the X is. So it'd be different than a regular Rosh Chodesh. The entire laning is a special laning of Rosh Chodesh. Hanich lamanda Omar. Let's say the Parshiyos Uchayzer. So, as we mentioned at the end of the Mishnah, it says that after the 5th week, you read Shkolim, Zachar, Para, and then you go back. You go back to what? So according to Reb Ami, all these 4 parshas, Zachar, is only about those things. We don't read the parshas of Shavua. So that's what the Mishnah means. When I go back to a regular laning of parshas of Shavua. So Memela, Rosh Chodesh comes out, beautiful. Rosh Chodesh is all 7 aliyahs, is all about Rosh Chodesh. So it makes a lot of sense, says the Gemara. Great. So then Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos Rosh Chodesh is all about Rosh Chodesh. But if it means on the 5th week, you just go back to the regular maftir. You don't give anybody para and shkolim and all that, like we do today. But we always lane the parshas hashavua. My shani. So then what is the difference between this chodesh and that and a regular one? Says Gemara, shani dilu roshi chodashim karushita binyana diyayma. On a regular chodesh that falls out on a Shabbos, we have 6 aliyahs of parshas Shavua. V'chad kari b'Rosh Chodesh, and only one is Rosh Chodesh. V'lo idna, but Rosh Chodesh that falls out on Shabbos. How do we do it? Karu tlasa binyana diyayma v'arbado karu b'Rosh Chodesh. It's 3 and 4, not 6 and 1. Meisvei Rosh Chodesh Chodesh Chalei is b'Shabbos karim b'parshas Shkolim. When Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on Shabbos, we read Parshas Shkolim. Umaftirim b'yayada hakayim, and the maftir is yayada hakayim. Bishlam elamandom kisisa harim maftirim b'yayada hakayim. If the haftarah always has to be similar to the Parshas Shavua, so the haftarah of yayada hakayim, the damilei d'chsiv kesem nafshis erkai, it's talking about machzas shekel haftarah, so it fits right in to kisisa. El elamandom is korbani lachmi. But if you're learning about karbanos tamid midami, then what's the connection between the haftarah and the Parshas Shavua? And what's the obvious answer? Dami kidur Rav Tavi. Rav Tavi says, yes, it says a carbon, but it means machzas shekel. It is the same. Meisvei chali is beParshas Muchala. So here I have a calendar. Look what's very interesting. It's hard to see, especially on Zoom. I don't know if you're going to see. And I don't have Gary here. But look at these parshias. In Rosh Chodesh, this is this year. This year, calendar I pulled off the internet. Here's Parshas Kisisa, right over here, this year. And the following week is Parshas Vayak, is Parshas Shkolim. You see, you're laning this parsha again. In other words, Parshas Kisisa always falls out right around Shkolim. And if you're laning, if you hold like the Manda Amar that says that the Parsha Shkolim is Kisisa, then all this makes sense. Why? Because we're talking about, what do? Do you lane the Parsha twice? Do you skip it? What do you do? What happens if Kisisa, so in our year, Kisisa is Lifonel, is right before. Here's Shkolim, and here's Kisisa. So we have a problem. So what do? Not a problem. You read Kisisa 1 week, next week, repeat. Balkari has an easy job for a little bit, because he just read it last week. If you say that what we read in Parshas Shkolim is from Parshas Kisisa, then it's possible to read the two parshas one after another. Where is that parsha? In Parshas Pinchas. When do we learn Parshas Pinchas? In the summer. What does a Parshas Shavua of the summer have to do with Purim? It'll never come out together. It never happens. This, Rabbi Isai, if you just listen to the shir for this one line, this is going to shock you. 90% of the people in our generation don't know this line. In Livnei Marava, in Eretz Yisrael, the maskili the Raisa Bitlashnin, they used to lane the entire Torah in 3 years. It took them 3 years to lane. 3.5, some say. In other words, you could do Shas in 7 years, and you do the whole Chamisha Chumsha Torah in 2 times the Torah, 1 time Shas. In those days it was a little different. They probably did Shas every month, and the Torah every 3.5 years. Whatever. I mean, people would love it nowadays. You go to Shul, Kriyas Torah is 20 psukim, you're done. Out of here. So in Eretz Yisrael, because you read the Torah, it takes you 3.5 years, it's possible that Parshas Pinchas 1 year falls out right by Purim time, and you're reading the Pinchas together with Shkolim. I'm saying Pinchas, Pinchas together with Pinchas. Because it is, according to this man, the Omer, Savis Korban. Says the Gemara, Tanya Kevasei the Shmuel. Rosh Chodesh Shchali is b'Shabbos. We're going to have to finish now. Korin Kisisa, but it says Mefurish in the Braisa, like Shmuel. And that's what we do today. You read Rosh Chodesh Shchali is b'Shabbos, Korin Kisisa. Umaftirim b'Yada HaKoyin. You don't read Savis B'nai Yisrael. You read Kisisa. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day.